Welcome to Bitch Listen, a podcast where I say what I mean and mean what I say, whether it's about identity, justice, culture, or just trying to make sense of this mess. I'm Imani Gandy, aka Angry Black Lady, and if it makes you uncomfortable, that's probably the point. Coming out late in life is a mindfuck because it's not just about finally saying, oh, I'm queer. It's about all the years before that. Years spent thinking I was straight because honestly, I didn't really think queerness was an option for me. Growing up in the 80s and early 90s, queerness was out there, but not in a way that I could see myself in. You had Paris is Burning, you had ballroom culture, you had people out there living it. But as a Black kid in mostly white spaces, I didn't have any access to that. Nobody at school was talking about Paris is Burning. TV sure as hell wasn't showing queerness. And in my world, queerness was either whispered about, mocked, or erased. So I thought I was straight. What else was I supposed to think, right? There was no mirror for me, no blueprint that said, this is yours too. Then I left home and it started to shift. I was in college when Ellen premiered in 1994. A little later after I graduated, Will and Grace hit. And sure, those were big deals, right? They cracked open something in the culture. But again, none of that queerness looked like me. None of it felt like something a Black girl from Philly could claim. So what do? You play the role. You act straight. You tuck parts of yourself away because you don't know that there's another script. And the kicker, while I was busy hiding queerness from myself, I couldn't hide my Blackness from anybody. Growing up in mostly white spaces, I was always the one, the Black girl, the example, the token, hyper visible, whether I wanted to be or not. I couldn't disappear even if I'd wanted to. But at the same time, the part of me that was queer, it was invisible, even to me at the time. And that tension, being seen too much and not being seen at all, is a real head trip that shaped me in ways that I'm still unpacking at 51 years old. And that's why this conversation today matters, because I think about all the years that I lost, all the years I lived somebody else's version of me. Representation is about possibility, right? It's about making sure the next Black queer kid doesn't spend half their life trying to survive a story that was never theirs in the first place. Which brings me to my guest, Franchesca Ramsey. She's a comedian, an actor, a graphic designer, a content creator, and a bit of a late stage queer herself, but not as late as me. I mean, I literally just figured it out a year ago. You already know her from I Never Knew the Leopards Would Eat My Face. She came out swinging with Shit White Girls Say to Black Girls back in 2012. And I remember watching it then and just dying of laughter because it was like, for the first time, there was a video that hilariously showcased what Black women deal with all the time when it comes to relatively clueless white women. She cracked it open with humor, but the truth there was actually really heavy. That video made Franchesca visible in a whole new way, and it shifted conversations we were all desperate to have. And she didn't stop there. She went on to create and star in MTV's award-winning web series Decoded. She's written for The Nightly Show with Larry Wilmore. She's written and produced iCarly and starred in Superstore. And she's one of the funniest content creators out there. In 2018, at the age of 34, she wrote her memoirs. Well, that escalated quickly, where she lays it all out, the mistakes, the lessons, the burnout, and the messiness of suddenly becoming an accidental activist. There aren't a lot of people who are writing memoirs before the age of 35 who actually have something to say. So I'm telling you right now, it's a great book and you should read it. I've been following her on social media for over a decade, and I'm so excited to be talking to her as a Black woman who's visible, who speaks truth, and who doesn't fit into a neat box. Welcome, Franchesca. I'm so excited that you're here.
Oh my goodness. That was such a beautiful introduction.
Well,
Thank you so
true.
much.
I mean, you're just kind of like a walking marvel.
Wow. Thank you.
You're just going to have to accept that.
Yes. Thank you for saying that. Well, and to your point about coming out late in life, man, that book is such a time capsule because I was married to a man at the time when I published that book. I've been approached a number of times about writing a follow-up, and I don't know when or if that will happen, but there's a lot of revisions to be made.
That was going to be one of my questions. Like, when's the part 2 of the memoirs coming out? Because that's a big deal.
Yeah, I don't know. Just for context for your audience, I'm now divorced. I got divorced in 2019. So truly, a book process is very lengthy. So I wrote the book in 2017. It came out in 2018. I got divorced in 2019. And I think I came out to myself before I came out to the world. But I think I first shared about my queer experience or on coming out day, which I think was in 2020.
It was
So
2020 because I
that's,
looked
yeah.
it up. I was like, that is a
So
bold flex.
I know. Oh my gosh, it's so funny because like Out Magazine wrote something about it and it came up in my dad's Google alert and he like sent me a message and he was like, I guess I should say congrats. And it was such a big deal because like my parents are not conservative in the traditional sense, like politically conservative, but like, Black boomers, like the way that they view the world, I think it's been expanded because of me. But
Mhm.
that was like such a huge deal to me. So yeah, I don't know if a follow-up is coming. I'm kind of at a stage in my online life where I like my personal life being off the internet. I
Mhm.
think I learned that lesson the hard way earlier in my career. And I'm thankful that I'm at a place now where like, I don't need to tell y'all everything.
Right.
Like
Right.
some stuff is just for me. So I don't know. Maybe when I'm like 70 or something, I'll feel like I'm ready to tell all my secrets.
Yeah. But in terms of coming out later, but then also coming out publicly, do you
Mm.
think that changed the way you experienced coming out?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so many of the things that you were saying about queer identity really resonated with me. I mean, even the fact that we weren't using the word queer when I was in high school. Ellen came out when I was in high school. I went to this performing arts school that was very diverse, very liberal, very progressive. And so I was seeing queer people around me, but similarly to you, like none of them looked like me. So, like I went to camp and met this girl that like fell super hard for. And I was so confused because I was like, but I also still like boys. And so it had this very narrow perspective of like, you're either a lesbian or you're gay or you're straight. And I didn't really fit that. So coming out for me was twofold because I was on Superstore and my character was a lesbian. And there were people that were saying, like, why is Francesca playing this part that's a lesbian? Like, she's taking a part away from a queer person. And I was like, well, this is not really the way I wanted to tell y'all, but also, hi, it's
Right.
me. Actually.
Actually, that's me too.
Yeah. And I didn't know the character was not written as a lesbian at first when I auditioned for it. They didn't really have any backstory for her, and it just kind of developed over time. But to your question about coming out publicly, I mean, I felt really fortunate in that I really am in a place in my life where I'm surrounded by so many queer people and I had such like a strong community and I'm also an adult, right? Like I live on my own, I pay my own bills. I'm very fortunate that my parents are more progressive at this stage in their lives, but when I was living at home, I think I maybe would have felt not as supported and a little bit more unsure and again, as you so eloquently said, there really wasn't any reflections of what a queer person as a Black woman looks like. Like today, I'm just like, man, y'all got Janelle Monáe, y'all got Kalani, you got Victoria Monet. Like there's just so many. And even, Queen Latifah, even though she hasn't like full blown said it, like she's walking the red carpet with her partner. There's just so many affirmations now that I think it's really inspiring to see young people living their truth. So for me, it didn't feel so much as fear, more of just like, oh, I feel really happy that I can share this part of myself with people. And I hope that the same way that they felt affirmed by my content over the years, like they can feel affirmed by this too. And I got so many messages from women that are like, I came out late too. Like, what? This is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like when you mentioned Queen Latifah, like she was in
Hmm.
Set It Off, obviously, and she
Yeah.
played like a butch lesbian in Set It Off. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, but I'm not that kind of gay. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Right. So
Yeah.
I really, what you said about not seeing the types of queerness that were available really resonates with me. So I want to circle back and talk about what was your experience then growing up in the 90s and the early
Mm.
2000s? Because for me, I was growing up in the 80s and the 90s, and it was like, am I queer or do I really just like a different world? Because I think Lisa Bonet and Cree Summer are super hot, right?
Yeah, it's so funny looking back on so many things. It's like the closet was glass. Like I have all of my old notes and journals. And so I was going through these old notes that I had been sharing with my best friend at the time, and they are so gay. Like we are fighting all the time. Like, we don't have spent enough time together. And like, I miss you and I love you so much. And like fighting because she had a boyfriend. And like, obviously I was very jealous. And in hindsight, I can see it plain as day. But at the time, I just remember being on this like emotional roller coaster with this girl that was my friend. And she left school and moved to Massachusetts. And felt like my heart was being ripped open. And I just thought it was my friend,
Right.
But now I really know I was like deeply in love with her. And then I was at a performing arts school and I went to North Carolina School of the Arts' summer program um, between my ninth grade and 10th grade year and met this amazing person who's now identifies as trans. And I was just like, what am I feeling? This is crazy. I don't really understand this. It was so confusing. And I kind of just chalked it up to being, like a summer of exploration because
Mhm.
I came back home and I was like, well, that was just a weird thing. I like boys.
Right.
um, and so again, I feel really fortunate because I was at Dreyfus School of the Arts in South Florida, and it was such a space where you really could be yourself and be affirmed. And there were so many people from all these various walks of life. But again, nobody that felt like me.
Mhm.
So when we talk about representation matters, it feels so cliche, but it is so real. So college was like very eye opening for me in that respect too. But I don't know, I felt like kissing girls was something you just did like at a party. It's not, it wasn't like, oh, you're going to be in a relationship with this person and call them your girlfriend and hold hands with them and live with them and do all those things. It was just kind of like, oh, we're drinking and woo, we're so wild and crazy like that.
Yeah.
That was the college experience for me.
That's so funny that you mentioned that because, like I said, I came out at 50 and it really
Mm,
was just because I found this girl that I really liked on Twitter and then
yeah,
went to go have drinks with her in Chicago and now she's living in my house, right?
yeah,
Like it was just, is it all women or is it just her? Like, you know what I mean? It kind of becomes complicated when
yeah,
you don't have sort of years of like dating women practice because I got on
yeah.
Hinge for like a hot minute. But like Hinge in Colorado is full of real crunchy white women. You know what I mean? And I'm not
And
about to go,
crunchy, and listen, I don't know about you, Imani, but crunchy white women love me. You know what I mean? Live your truth, but I just,
okay.
it's not my vibe.
Right.
And I'm curious if this has been your experience in that because I have so much experience dating men, I feel like it's very paint by numbers if you are attracted to a man and you want to go on a date with them. With women, I'm always like, I don't know what's going on. Are you my friend? Do you like me? What's happening? Like,
Right, right.
I still am learning that process. I will say Jade Fox on TikTok, I've watched a lot of her content about like how to hit on women.
Oh, really?
So shout out to Jade because I've taken notes.
What are some of the things that she says you should do?
Oh, okay. Well, one thing that I was really bad at is that when I would compliment women, it would often come off as platonic. Like I'd be like, "Oh, you're so pretty," and they're like, "Oh, you're so pretty too." And so,
Mhm.
like, that's not the right way. You really have to like look into the woman's eyes and compliment something specific.
Mm.
So instead of like "you're so pretty," it's more of like "your eyes are so striking. I can't
Oh,
stop looking at," and really like hold the contact.
yeah.
And then something that guys do a lot that again, it feels more deliberate because with women, I'm very touchy feely anyway. Like you're laughing, you're touching the person's arm, you're doing all those things. But like the very intentional, I'm putting my leg against yours while I'm like
Mhm.
looking into your eyes is like, oh, this person like, I always feel like men will get up to go to the bathroom and they'll like kind of touch your back. They'll be like, I'm going to go to the restroom. And you're like, he's into me. Right. So it's
Right.
like this very deliberate, like point of contact. I'm looking at you. And so those are things that I just wasn't used to doing with women.
Yeah.
Again, I'm so thankful that now we are in a place where there's a wealth of information online and a lot of women are talking about this. And this idea of compulsory heterosexuality where we have come a long way, but we've seen gay men for such a long time
Mhm.
that for a lot of women, it's like, oh no, what you're supposed to do is just like meet a guy, settle down, get married, and that's just the way it is. And I'm thankful that we can see there's different models of relationships and love now.
It's really lovely. And well, fortunately, I would say, because I don't want to be dating right now. I mean, for me, it was like,
it's rough.
I'm done with men. Like, I literally broke up with a man in 2017. I was like, that's it. I'm good. I've got Golden Girls friends plans. We're going to buy a villa somewhere. I'm just going to live with my girls. It's going to be great. So me in this relationship with Portia is just like a learning experience. But also it's like, oh, so you can like love somebody and live with somebody and partner up with somebody, but still be yourself around them?
Yeah.
Wow. What a revelation.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I spent so much time play acting with men and like following, like you said, these rules. Like, you go on a date and then after 3 days they call you. And after the third date, maybe you have sex and And with Portia, it's just been like, this whole new experience of discovery of like what it's like to like love your best friend. Like it's just really, really compelling. And I'm kind of glad that I don't have to date anymore, but I kind of wish that I could go to a gay bar and try some of those techniques. Like look dead in somebody's eyes. Be like, I love your teeth.
I mean, that does sound a little creepy. There are some ladies who are probably very into that. Well, I think it's also, not to put words in your mouth, but the feeling of giving yourself grace to say, like, you don't know what you don't know. Right. And I often think of, how would you explain that there's certain experiences in life that you tell somebody, like, you got to go to this restaurant. It's so good. And it's like, you can tell them till you're blue in the face how great it is, but they're not going to actually understand until they go and they like try it for themselves. And I think that our identities are very similar, that you didn't know that this is what you needed until you met the person and you got the thing that you needed. Which is kind of a blessing and a curse. Because I know for myself, I did have a little mournful period where I was just like, man, like, why didn't I do this earlier? And like, I wish that I had gotten to have certain experiences, but you can't go back in time. All you can do is move forward.
Yeah, I feel that so hard because it's like, I came out as queer to myself and to the public, like at a time when I have sciatica and bad knees, right? So it's like, imagine what I was,
oh my God,
not to put too fine a point on it. I was a party girl in my 20s and 30s. I was going to raves in LA and, glow sticks and all of that. And like, I can imagine what would my life have been like if I was able to say to myself, hey, I'm queer. I want to explore this. Do you think that anything would have been different for you in your 20s or early 30s if you, I mean, obviously you probably wouldn't have married a man.
Yeah, no, I look, listen, I often joke that being attracted to men is like the worst part of my personality. Like I still like them. So maybe, but I do think that I probably wouldn't have gotten married. And again, like, I don't regret that time in my life. It was the right thing for me at the moment. But to your point about how your current relationship has kind of shifted your perspective about what relationships can be. Similarly, my ex-husband was my first boyfriend. I didn't really date very much in high school. And in hindsight, I now realize part of that was my queer identity and not really knowing who I connected with, but also growing up in like a predominantly white environment. So I didn't have boyfriends in high school. And so I really didn't have a lot of experience. And so in many ways, I kind of just rode the relationship escalator. We're like, okay, I've been dating this person for this much time. Now we live together. Now we get engaged. Now we get married. And truly there was a moment where I was like, okay, I guess now I'm supposed to have a kid. Like I was just really kind of following the steps and not realizing that you don't have to do that and there's a different way. So yeah, I think I would have made different choices, but it's also like that butterfly effect thing where if I hadn't gone that route, there's so many different things. Like I might not have met my best friend who I consider to be my soulmate. I probably wouldn't be living in Los Angeles. Who knows if I'd be working in TV? Like there were just so many things that happened. Like, hate to say it, but Shit White Girls Say, the title, my ex-husband came up with that title. And I remember we fought about it because I was like, the format is Shit Girls Say. So that's, my video should be Shit White Girls Say. And he was like, but it's not really what, it's about two Black girls. And I was like, yeah, but that's not the format. And like, we went back and forth about it. And I was like, you know what? Fine, I'm going to do it. And then so who knows? Maybe a totally different timeline. Would I have come to that same video? Maybe. Would it be a different title? Who knows? So on the one hand, I do mourn for the Franchesca that didn't date and felt really awkward and wasn't really sure of herself for a long time. But also, like, she's a crucial part of my story and who I am today.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel similarly. I mean, I have moments like, man, I could have been gay this whole time. But oh well. In terms of identity, do you feel a pressure to be Black or queer, but never both? Do you
Mm,
show up as equal parts Black and queer? Are you Black first, queer second, right? Like the
yeah,
world sometimes like demands that you pick an identity, like you got to swipe an identity at like a checkout lane.
yeah,
And I'm asking this because I spent a long time growing into my Blackness as an adult.
yeah.
And so at this rate, if I'm going to grow into my queerness, I'm going to be 70 on a pride float, like waving my AARP card around, like,
Yeah.
surprise, bitches, I'm 70 and I'm gay. So do you have any of that pressure, or you're just like, you know what? I figured this out. I'm showing up as my whole self, like it or not?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I do feel like I have figured out my career identity in the sense that, like, as I've gotten older and evolved, like, I don't feel as pressured to dress for the male gaze, for example. Like, I don't really have like an androgynous style, but I used to have really long nails and like that was like my thing. I was really into like nail art. And then I was like, wow, cool. I'm not doing this anymore. And also, like, I want people to see me and go, I think she might be like,
Right.
just like, what are the little signals that I can make sure help people identify me as a queer person? The way that I dress is part of that. Cutting off my hair. Again, I had this whole joke about I cut my hair, I cut my nails, I cut out that man. Like, I just totally did a massive pivot. I will say, though, I do feel like I have to be very intentional when I'm in queer spaces or around other queer people to be like, yeah, I'm fam. It's me too. Like, even though to me, I present as more queer, I think maybe sometimes I'm a little insecure about it because at first, when I even came out, that was part of my insecurity is I was like, oh, well, I was in a relationship with a man for so long. So, like, do I really qualify? Like, is it fair for me to say, like, I don't have a ton of experience? And it's not everybody, but I do know there are some lesbians that don't want to date bisexual women. There's kind of like that stigma too. And so, sometimes I have had those feelings of like, oh God, I hope this is okay. Like, I've been dating a man recently, and I even with that, I was like, oh, do I tell people? Like, is this okay? I was
It's
like,
almost
we
like
can't be
shameful.
seen.
Like every
We
time I
can't be seen together.
right, exactly. You go out the back door. I'll meet you at the car.
I don't know that guy. Yeah. So I do think to your question about like showing up as Black or showing up as queer, similarly, like my Black identity was like a journey that I went through because my parents, God love them, like they were really intentional about putting me in private school and making sure that I talked a certain way and kind of hammering these ideas into me that I had to unlearn and kind of figure out, I'm Black wherever I go, but like understanding like and like really loving who I am and feeling comfortable code switching and making sure that I can show up in spaces as my full self and kind of rejecting the respectability politics that kind of were hammered into me for a long time. So I feel really comfortable in that respect, especially because I've done so much education and deprogramming and reading and speaking and working and doing all of these things. So I feel like I'm on a similar journey in my queer identity, but I don't think that I feel any external pressure. If anything, it's like internal pressure of like,
Mm.
oh God, okay, I'm in this space. I want to make sure like I'm not saying the wrong thing and people know that I'm fam and whatever else it may be. But thankfully it hasn't been as difficult as maybe one would expect. I'm very fortunate. I live in Los Angeles, like
Yeah.
if I was in the Midwest or
Colorado,
somewhere.
for example.
Yeah, it would be very different, and that's not a knock to those places, but, like, just remembering like I live in a very liberal bubble.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are lots of places for me to go. Even, there's not a ton of spaces for women, but in the big scheme of things in Los Angeles, we've got more than most places do,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of queer women events here, but there's also like a lot of Black queer women stuff. Shout out to Queer Aunties.
Amazing.
I've gone to a lot of their parties. So there's not like a dedicated club, but there's usually like parties at specific places. And so again, I'm really fortunate in that space, because if I had come out, in my 20s, there really weren't that many places in New York where I was living at the time, or South Florida where I'm from. So it's a very different landscape now.
Yeah. In your memoirs, you describe yourself as an only child who used to struggle in the friends department. And I feel that so hard. I was so awkward.
Yeah.
And just, I felt like a nerd. I was surrounded by white kids. All my white teachers were trying to put me in remedial classes. I'm like, no, I'm actually really smart. You know what I mean? There's like a whole lot of just nonsense that goes along with growing up in predominantly white spaces. And, can you just talk more about what it was like dealing with microaggressions? I mean, in a Nylon interview, you said that you were dealing with a lot of internalized racism at the same time. Like, what's it like growing up Black in West Palm Beach?
Yeah. So like I said, I went to Catholic school, and I was one of like 3 Black kids in my class through elementary and middle school before I left and went to School of the Arts, which is where I went for middle and high school. And so in terms of deprogramming, there was just so much drilled into me about respectability politics. Just this idea of you have to speak a certain way, you have to act a certain way. I'll never forget one summer I went to a camp that was predominantly Black, and it was truly like a coming of age 90s movie where I was like, "Hello, I'm Franchesca." And they were like, "Why you talk like that?"
You talk so white.
They were like, "You talk so white." And then there's like the montage of them like teaching me how to dance. And there was like one white girl in our group who was like really hood, and she's like, "I can dance better than you." And I was like,
I'm Blacker than you.
Truly, it was just oh my God, it was so cringy. I remember us like being on the basketball court, like them teaching me how to switch, which was kind of like walk and like swing your hips so the boys would look at you. And I was like, what? I don't understand. Like, I don't know what's going on. And so there was a lot of me feeling like I didn't belong. When I was around the Black kids, I didn't feel like I belonged. When I was around the white kids, I didn't feel like I belonged. At the time, I didn't realize I was dealing with my own sexuality and like not really knowing, like, here I am. I've got this best friend that I'm maybe in love with, but I don't know. Just like, and then you get the hormones going. So, I mean, it's all of that and then some. And I think for me, when I left that environment, when I went away to college, that was really like eye opening for me. One thing that I often say is, to a lot of Black folks, it's not that you're an ugly duckling, you just went to a PWI. Like, I got to college and I was like, wait, am I hot? Am I good looking? Like, suddenly, like, you know what I mean? Like, I was getting hit on. I remember like walking down the street and a guy being like, "Hey girl," from a car. And I was like, who is he? Who is he talking to? Oh, that was for me? Like, what's happening? There was a lot of me just having to really step into my own power and not make myself small. I mean, so much of Shit White Girls Say was me processing the ways in which people around me were being racist, and I didn't realize it. I just thought like, oh, well, this is my friend, and like, this is how they talk to me. And really through Shit White Girls Say, going viral was the first time I ever had the language for microaggressions. I'd never heard that word in my life. And then someone wrote a dissertation about my video and sent it to me. And I was reading it and I was thinking like, oh, this is what I did. I just thought this was a video about me in West Palm Beach. So it was really capturing a universal experience unintentionally. And so even that was really eye-opening and really helped me step into my power of, oh wow, like I'm really good at communicating experiences in a way that is illuminating and funny, but also makes people feel seen. And I didn't realize I was good at that. And so that was a really empowering moment for me and really shaped the trajectory of my work and my content and the types of people that I want to uplift and partner with. All of that just like led me to this point, which is truly a blessing, even though I won't lie, it was challenging at times.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the questions I had for you. Is just like the way that you use humor to
Mm,
talk about really heavy shit.
yeah.
And so what I wonder is, do you think that talking about really heavy shit in a humorous way makes it easier for people to hear? Or does it make it easier for you to talk about out loud, or some combination of both?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I do think it makes it easier for people to digest. It is harder. It's a lot harder. And I think it's so interesting because people who are funny, they make it look really easy. And any writer that you talk to will tell you like comedy is really, really difficult. And I think this is why so many comedians are really good dramatic actors because they're like,
Mm,
oh, this shit's easy. They're like, oh,
interesting.
drama? Did like emotional journey is like way easier to tackle than humor because you have to like subvert expectations, so you have to be like thinking on multiple planes. Like, what does the audience think you're going to say? What do you say that's surprising? And what do you say that then also exposes some level of truth? And so it's really hard. And you have to do it in like the tightest way possible. There's a formula to comedy that really feels like math or like you are writing a symphony. Like it's really, really difficult. And so then when you throw conscientious topics that people get really fired up about, that people don't understand, that are sometimes life and death issues, it's
Mhm.
really, really difficult. So, all that to say, I do think when you can get it right, it can be really powerful and eye opening. And that's the thing that I realized when Shit White Girls Say to Black Girls went viral. It was like I went from a normal person to then suddenly on Anderson Cooper. And I was like,
Right.
whoa.
What was it like meeting Anderson Cooper?
Oh, I mean, he was so nice. He was super nice, and I actually worked on the show for a few episodes, which was really cool. Like, they made the episode about the video, but then they, like, had me kind of as their, like, online correspondent, which was
Hmm.
really nice. And so it was really this moment of like, "Oh, this is a really big deal. This is a really powerful thing." Again, I'm so thankful that I got to have that trajectory. I'm somebody who is a multi hyphenate, and so I'm thankful that I can always say like, "Okay, I did that thing. I'm gonna do something else now."
Right, right, right.
And so I still have, the smartness and reflectiveness of who I am and what's going on in the world. Like it's still in my content, but it's not like the center of my content. It's still kind of housed in this comedic, irreverent, silly, playful kind of vessel.
Do you ever get frustrated that maybe the comedy isn't getting through to people? Like they can see on a surface level, like, ooh, that's hilarious. Like in your memoirs, you talk about people who came up to you after Shit White Girls Say to Black Girls, like, oh, did I do that? Ha 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 ha. Do you feel like it makes it easier to dismiss? Or do you think it's
Mm.
like a better entryway into a more serious conversation about, no, seriously, you've been laying microaggressions on me since we were in high school.
Yeah. I mean, I think something I've always struggled with, and it feels more precedent now, is that a lot of things go over people's heads. Like, you really have to sometimes spell things out for people. And that's always really frustrated me. Like, I'm someone who's very sarcastic. I love puns. I love a play on words. And sometimes it's very frustrating to me when I very deliberately craft a post or a video or whatever, and people go, "Oh, did you notice that you also like you're wearing a leopard print shirt?"
No
Yeah.
kidding.
Yes. I put on a leopard print shirt to go with the leopard song. Like,
Right.
that is intentional. Like, and so sometimes I'm like,
Like, good
open
Lord,
the
people.
schools. Yeah, like there's things like that happen all of the time. But
Or like people asking you, well, how did you get the idea for the leopards will eat my face? Like, Google it, man, or
yeah,
just like look it up on Twitter.
that, and also like I've been making video content for almost 20 years. It'll be 20 years next year. I joined YouTube in 2006. You can't predict when something will go viral, but like I'm really intentional about my work. Like if I'm going to say something or make something, I'm putting time into it, and it doesn't have to go viral, but like, well, I need to pay some bills. Like I get sometimes where people will say, you put this out there. Did you know that this was going to happen? It's like, well, I didn't know, but like I definitely orchestrated, like, like I put
Right.
the pieces together in order for this to happen. So the realization that there are some people who go through the world thinking that just like everything's a coincidence, and like there's this big conspiracy, and that like that there's some like puppet master, versus realizing like, no, some artists are really intentional about the words that they use and the colors and the editing and the way that things are put together. And they're trying to communicate a very specific message. It is really frustrating when that's not received, but also having to remind myself that everything isn't for everyone, and that I have this level of success and longevity because I know my work is good, and I know that it will be received by the people that it's meant to be received by, and that we, meaning myself included, are often louder about things that we don't like,
Hmm.
um, or that, pissed us off or confused us, than we are about things that really resonated with us. Sometimes, you look at the comments and you see people saying ridiculous things, and it doesn't represent all the people who saw it and enjoyed it and didn't say anything, because they were
Right.
just like, "Oh, this was great." And then they just moved on. And so really putting my time and energy into making stuff that I feel really good about, no matter how it's received, has been really important for me, but also investing my time and energy offline. Like the
Yeah.
internet is such a bubble. Like you walk down the street and you ask somebody about what's going viral online, and most people will be like, "What are you talking
Right. You
about?"
start talking about Bean Dad, and people are like,
They're
"Excuse
like,
me."
"What?" They genuinely have no idea. Like it's such a microcosm. And so again, I feel very fortunate that my success on the internet happened at a very pivotal time in my life, but I always explored other opportunities so that I wasn't just tied to social media. Because I see a lot of content creators now who are like, yo, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, the algorithm changed, or my account got banned, or this thing happened. And I always encourage people to like explore as many opportunities as possible so your eggs aren't all in one basket. And similarly, like, if I have a video and people are saying crazy shit, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go do my other job.
Right.
Y'all can be mad. I have to pay these other bills. So I'm going to get this done.
So, what advice would you give to Black queer folks who are growing up with more visibility than we ever had, but also
Mm,
with the intensity of online scrutiny that we did not have?
yeah. I would say really make sure that you develop a strong offline community that you can have as a gut check, because sometimes you will get things wrong. You are human. No one is infallible. Again, when I talked about the challenges of humor, I see a lot of people get into hot water when they're like trying to be funny about something that maybe it's too soon, or it's just not something that should be dealt with in a funny way, and then they like it blows up, and then everybody's invested in dragging you and talking about you, and all that stuff. It's not a matter of like if it'll happen, it's when. Like you are bound to mess up. Like everyone's human.
Yeah.
Making sure that you have a solid community that you can check in with offline and say, "Did I fuck up? Can you tell me if this passes the sniff test?" Because when it's happening, it can be really difficult to see the forest from the trees. We've seen it happen so many times. Like somebody's getting dragged for something, rightfully so, and they get really defensive, and then they say a bunch of stuff that it's just like, just take a beat, just take a
Yeah.
minute, just get off the internet for like 24 hours, really think about it, ask your people that you really trust. Because again, these strangers on the internet, they don't always have your best interest at heart. You don't know if you really did mess up. So making sure you have that community. And to that same end, being comfortable saying like you got something wrong. I just think so often, again, like I'm not perfect. I've made plenty of mistakes. And it's like, it's so rare for people to say, you know what, I fucked up. That when it happens, people are like, oh,
Yeah.
wow, that was pretty painless. Like, some people aren't going to accept it, but like, that's just life, right? You can't please everybody. For me, I always really try to center making sure that I can stand 10 toes down in the thing that I've said or I've done. And if I get it wrong, to just say like, hey, I got this thing wrong. I'm prepared to show y'all that I've learned this lesson and I'm going to do better moving forward. You're either still Team Francesca or you're not. And I have to be okay with that. And I think people of all backgrounds, but especially Black folks who there is always going to be a harsher spotlight on us, you have to really get clear on what it is that you want and what's important to you, and that things that you put out into the world or the people you collaborate with or the brands that you promote are in line with the things that you want, so that when and if something shifts, that you know how to move accordingly.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you said about getting stuff wrong and admitting it, because honestly, I think that makes you more credible, right?
Yeah.
If you are a person who, like, for example, I'm an expert in repro law. I got some things wrong sometime. And I said, you know what? I got this wrong. Here's why. Here's the information, blah, blah, blah. It makes
Mhm.
people realize that you are a reliable source of information
Yeah.
if you can admit that you're wrong and then course correct. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and my hope is that it makes it more acceptable for other people to admit when they get things wrong. And I'm hesitant to say that it's an American thing, but it does feel like it's everyone. But there's this whole thing of like, I am who I am, take
Right.
it or leave it. Saying you're sorry is a sign of weakness, and saying you got it wrong, it's like, no, it's actually a sign of strength to say like, actually, I got that thing wrong. And I think if we had more models of folks doing that, it wouldn't feel as scary,
Yeah.
like thinking even about like your parents. Like, if you can think back to the first time your parents said, like, you know what, I got that thing wrong, and how huge that was for you, because you were like, wait, an adult can
Right.
say they got something wrong. It's the exact same thing. If you are a public figure, if you're a celebrity, a politician, I cannot tell you a time that I can think of a politician saying, actually, I got that thing wrong.
Yeah.
Like, that's like a winning strategy. Like,
Amazing, right? Just yeah. I mean, I keep
yeah.
not to go veer off topic, but for example, Gavin Newsom and all of his nonsense going on to these these right-wing podcasts and talking about
Mhm.
anti-trans nonsense.
Mhm.
It's like, what if you just came out and said, "You know what? I've been walking around going on these podcasts and talking all this shit about girls in sports. I didn't know what I was talking about,
Mhm.
and frankly, I was ignorant."
Or even just like, yeah, I didn't know what I was talking about, but also it's a delicate line to walk of like, you don't want to make excuses, but sometimes if you can give insight into like why you did something, like I thought that collaborating with these people would help me win votes. And now what I realize is it's also lost me the base that I worked so hard to gain their respect and their trust. Like, oh, wow, like it's not an excuse, but like, yeah, that does make sense why you
Right.
did that thing. You thought it was going to do this, you realized it did something different, and that's really huge. That's so huge, and it's just again a big part of when I wrote the book. It was so important to say like I have made a lot of mistakes. When I talk about these things, I sometimes I get people that say like, "Oh, you think you're perfect." I said, "No, actually, I'm not perfect." I'm often speaking from a place of experience. I've slid in so many DMs to be like, "Hey girl,
Yeah.
you should take that down."
Yeah,
Like,
right.
you should take that down. Here's what's about to happen to you. I want to be like the Olivia Pope of social media. Like, I don't want to be like the front facing. I want to be the person where people call me, they're like, what do I do? And I can say, like, I'm going to take this case or I'm not. I feel like that's like kind of my superpower in
Like a
some
social
ways.
media crisis management. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that makes sense. I'm just so happy that you came on
Oh,
to talk to me today. It's been such a lovely conversation. I don't like to leave anyone on a sour note, not that anything in this conversation has been
yeah.
sour, but what have you been doing lately that just brings you joy?
Oh man. Well, I actually just took on a social media consulting job that I'm really excited about. And I'm really hoping that that opens more doors in that realm, just kind of taking a step back and being able to like help people with their brand. So I'm really excited about that. I also have a podcast with my best friend Delon called Let Me Fix It, where we talk about what's going on in the world, but it's always from a constructive place. We're both actors, we're both writers, we're both musicians. I worked as a designer, I worked in marketing. So like we kind of come at topical stories from a more nuanced but also informed position. It's not just like, let's talk shit. It's like, how do we fix this thing? So that's been really fun. And I've been doing more voiceover, which has been really
Oh, that's
awesome.
fun.
Yeah. I mean, those are three major things, I would
Those
say.
are three great things.
Yeah.
That's what it's better than like, I've been drinking a lot of beer, sitting outside, staring at the trees, which, is somewhat what I've been doing lately. Franchesca, thank you so much for joining me on my inaugural episode of Bitch Listen, an Angry Black Lady podcast. I'm so excited about this project. And I'm so excited that you were my first guest. You were the first person I thought I was like, I gotta get Francesca on to talk about being a late stage queer because, going back to what you said about sometimes lesbians not wanting to date bisexual women, like my girlfriend Portia has never dated a man, the quote unquote gold star, right? Gold star. And when I said that on our first date, she's like, God, I hate that term.
Yeah.
But, for me, it was like, who wants to date a 50-year-old late stage baby queer?
Yeah.
And it turns out she did. So, in terms of advice for people who are just coming out late in life, do you have anything for them?
Yeah. I mean, I would say like be kind to yourself. And if anything, I would say, despite like the state of our world, like that aside, the queer community right now feels so strong and so welcoming. If you're going to come out, like this is the time to do it. There's so many resources, whether it be, on social media, but like IRL stuff. There's so many like queer soccer teams and gay men's chorus. And there's like all of these places where like you can find community. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. So, just being kind to who you are right now in this moment and knowing that you are opening up a world of possibilities for yourself in terms of community and also love. And just knowing that like it takes time to kind of figure out who you are. And I'm of the mind that it's better late than never.
Yeah, me too, obviously.
Yeah.
Again, thank you so much for joining me. Can you tell my listeners and viewers where they can find you besides everywhere?
Yeah, you can find me across social media as Chesca Lee, ChescaLeigh. You can find Let Me Fix It exclusively on YouTube, youtube.com/@fixitpod. My website's francesca.net, FRANCHESCA.net. You can get Leopards merch there. I've got hats, I've got bags, I've got cups, I've got stickers. I think that pretty much covers it.
Huge thanks to Franchesca for showing up and keeping it all the way real. Coming out late, coming out publicly, navigating queerness and Blackness at the same time. It's not easy. And I'm glad to have found a kindred spirit in Franchesca. If you're out there wondering if it's too late to come out, or if your story counts, or if you're queer enough to join the Pride Party, I see you. You're not too late. Actually, you're right on time. If you want more of me between episodes, you can follow me on Blue Sky, Threads, and Instagram at Angry Black Lady. And make sure to subscribe to my newsletter, Angry Black Lady Chronicles, where I write about law, politics, identity, and whatever else is on my mind that week. If you want more of me in your ears, check out my other podcast, Boom Lawyered, where Jess Pieklo and I break down the law, the courts, and the chaos for those of you who were smart enough not to go to law school. This has been Bitch Listen, an audience-funded podcast that would not have happened without your support during Rewire News Group's June 2025 fundraising campaign. I'm Imani Gandy, and I just want to remind you that Clarence Thomas still has a goddamn job. See you on the tubes, folks.